And I'm interested to ask you, so I'm just going to jump into like another subject, which is one of the things we're interviewing today, and see what comes up for you. Have you seen by experience that faith can have an assisting role in the health and healing of a person?
I've seen it be absolutely necessary component of it. To try to fix biology through biologic mechanisms, whether it's supplements or drugs or nutrition, you have to remember you're dealing with 0.001% of the universe that's actually solid. The biology is, 1,000th of percent at best of the actual reality around us. And so that's the lever we're using, and we're trying to use the 0.001%, and we're saying we're going to go give $1,000 of supplements every month to that person. Well, the chance of that shifting that person is A, it's going to take a long time if it's going to work, and B, it's going to be it's not going to be complete. You're not going to completely heal that person because you're trying to change the 99.99% with this tiny little lever of biology. And so the psycho-spiritual, emotional content, psycho-social, spiritual content of what is the fabric, which is mostly vacuum space, it's emptiness of the atom. So that 99.999% of the reality is full of energy. And so we just mentioned light, love, life itself is this energy that's vibrating in us. We are way more a vibrational particle than we are a cell or a bunch of cells put together. And so that's where you have to, so the word faith loaded has a lot of different contexts. It's more just relationship. Are you in relationship to your spirituality? You don't have to believe there's a God. You don't have to have faith that there's a God. You have to be in relationship to that spirituality. And so what is the relationship to that spiritual content in your life? And what we find over and over again is there's emotions that are blocking our ability to be in relationship with our spiritual context. And this is very true for cancer. There's so many cancers that are very specific to the emotions. And so, you think of a breast cancer patient, the typical phenotype of your breast cancer patient is a woman who has been a pillar in her community. She's who everybody looks to. If there's a volunteer project or there's something at the church or there's something in the community, there's something at the school, these are the women that will very often be in that role of, kind of that plug the needs, make sure that they're great at service-oriented lifestyles, and they're very passionate about it, and they're very healthy in a lot of ways in that. But like we said earlier, if you find yourself in one of those roles where you're the humanitarian, you're the one that sees a problem, goes, plugs it, the back side of that, the sharp edge of the sword behind that is if you're doing that to justify your own identity, then it's becoming its own block between you and the spirituality, because ultimately it's only the love, the light, the life, the God that's going to fill that problem that you can see out there in society. And so we can all day put relief projects together. We can do that ad nauseum, and I've done that a lot. I did mission projects for years. And even in the midst of it, we can tell it's just a Band-Aid. It's not really getting at the root cause of the problem. What is the root cause of the problem? There's not enough love being realized by the general population all over the planet. And so that's where I think we have an opportunity to say, let's really plug up the holes and become this love light entity. And so I think the question was around, let me reorient to that question. The question is spirituality or faith necessary in healing? It's inherent to the process of healing. Health is inherently a non-chaotic, deeply plugged in state with your energy field. Your energy field, the 99.99% of you that's not a cell membrane or not a cell, that's where reality exists, and that's where God exists, if you want to use that word. It's where light exists. The electromagnetic frequency, the electromagnetic field that vibrates in that vacuum, all of these intense atomic physics truths that we know are not in the biology. They're down in the spiritual zone. They're down in the emotional zone. It's a pretty exciting thing that it's necessary and powerful.
Yeah, I'm fascinated that you've pushed it to as far as it being necessary, and I think that is very, very powerful. And I think that if you're right, it's with cancer affecting 1 in 2 men, 1 in 3 women, with 70 million people in this country alone battling autoimmune disease, with all these different problems, it starts to put the people that are suffering these things to look at it as one of their areas. Should I explore this? I don't know God, or I don't have any interest in exploring faith, but I've got this problem. And so, it's interesting. Is it an area where somebody that hasn't had much experience with that can go and explore it? I think that a lot of people have really felt that if you don't have it, you just don't have it. There's just some people that have faith, some people that don't, some people that are born into it and that have good experiences so they stay in it, and some people that don't. But what do you think is the truth for the person watching that maybe doesn't have faith and doesn't know how to have it or get it?
That's why I want to redefine faith. Faith doesn't mean you have to have some big belief system around what God is, who God is, where God exists, what kind of relationship you have to this deity or this third party that's out there floating in space, or the old man with the beard that's, in Michelangelo's work. It's like we have all these concepts and we think of that as faith or religion or spirituality. But if we just erase all that and say spirituality is the experience of love. And now I think every viewer of the show can say, I've had moments in my life of experiencing not the emotion of, oh, I'm in love and I can't wait to call my girlfriend or whatever. The deep sense of, I am here, I see another human being, or I see an animal, or I see a plant, I see an extraordinary flower, and I can be in this deep state of love and joy. That is the spiritual connection that I think that I can really engender in everybody I come along, is just ask that piece of where have you connected in your life? And it's often in little tiny moments, right? It's not usually, oh yeah, I went on this mission trip, or I was at this monastery and I was 2-week fast and all. And when I ask, when have you experienced love? First of all, it usually takes people a while to answer that question, because you have to specify. I'm not talking about when you fell in love. When have you experienced love? The constant, unending source. When have you touched that? And it's often these tiny moments with a parent, or with a child, or with a loved one, or with a friend, or alone on top of a mountain where you just happen to, suddenly the crowd dispersed at the top of the mountain, you were suddenly there alone, and the stars were there, or whatever was present with you, and you had a deep sense of oneness.